First of all, I think I've got to ask, how is the welfare? Are you okay? Well, I need to ask, are you two okay? Like, yeah, is that fair enough? Can I just ask?
I've been dreading seeing your face all daily. Not going to lie. I've been dreading seeing it. Too many gooners in my comment section, too many gooners in my mentions, too many gooners everywhere. I've had enough of them.
After we won the
you do
League,
put yourself up for it, boys. You do put yourself up for it. I've seen some clips today, like, even the Arsenal haters that hate everything have been like, they've been banging on at you like this, like that you're their best friends.
You know what, Lee? You know what? Warra trophy. How about that? Where's your European trophy? That's all we got.
So I don't know.
Win a trophy.
We are going to talk about this because again, my mate Daniel Levy's getting loads of stick. You know what I mean? Like uncalled for stick, by the way. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden, like a deal which I don't think you can blame him for. We'll go into that a little bit later.
Just the three of us, is it, Lee?
The three of us. Like, let's go. Let's get it out there. Like the biggest game of the weekend, I do believe is this game. Well, no, it's probably not the biggest game, but is Monday Night Football counted as a weekend? I don't know. Like I think Monday isn't, is it really?
Match week, yeah.
Match week, definitely match week. I think probably Liverpool and Newcastle just pips it because of what's going on. But this is a massive game, Manchester City versus Spurs. How are you guys feeling about this? Like, listen, you've been let's get it out. Let's get it out there. Like, you've had a hard 24 hours, boys, haven't you? You've had it tough. You've been going viral. I know what it's like to go viral.
Listen right here, yeah.
Everybody watching what you boys do.
Eze won the FA Cup last year. He won the Community Shield this year. If he really wants to say that's all I want to win in my career, I want to hang up my boots now, retire from trophies, then be my guest. You know what I mean? If he wants to play a bit part role in this Arsenal team, be my guest. You know what I mean? Good riddance to him. Seriously. And this is another blood in his hand for Daniel Levy, man. I'm sorry, but Daniel Levy.
Well, how come I've got to get that out? Again. How is it Daniel Levy's fault?
How? Because David Ornstein said we could have had this deal done if we didn't.
How I see it like that is he was looking, what I gather, he was saying, I will come, but I want to play in the game on Thursday for and say me goodbyes at Crystal Palace. And then,
did he play tonight, Lee? Did he play tonight?
No, exactly. He didn't. No, so was he dragging his heels a little bit on this thing now? Someone said, which was great on the radio from a Spurs point of view, if there was any sort of doubts on this, Tottenham should have just said no, but they didn't. So I don't really know. Has Daniel Levy been played a little bit here or what? I don't know. I'm being...
Lee, let me ask you this question here. Why does this stuff always happen to Tottenham and barely ever happens to anyone else? Twice this window, Morgan Gibbs-White now Eberechi Eze. It's happened time and time again in previous transfer windows.
Well, Daniel Levy, let's take the Gibbs-White one first. You can go into that one first. Like, they've got the. I don't know really what happened there. If I be honest, they've obviously activated the release clause, and for some unknown reason, he signed an extension. Now, I don't see how that's Levy's fault. Like, I don't understand that much here.
I think with that one, I think most Spurs fans have a bit more sympathy because we did actually reportedly activate a release clause, and Marinakis was saying it's an illegal approach. And even then, you can argue, should Levy have just done things the right way, done things up front, and maybe Marinakis wouldn't have had such a bad reaction to the transfer. But at the end of the day, I think with the information we had, we knew about the release clause fee. We activated it. I think most clubs in that position would have probably done the same. So the fact that we just probably didn't, we were blindsided that Marinakis was going to threaten take us to court. He was basically holding Gibbs-White hostage until he signs a new deal, all this kind of stuff. So I think for that one, I wouldn't say he's blameless, but I would say that was unlucky more than anything. This one, I don't see how you can't blame Levy.
No, that's what I'm going to get to. I've got to ask this
so much. He has to activate the exact release clause to the penny, not even hiding it one little bit.
That's also true. That's why I'm saying he's not blameless, but I don't think it's totally his fault. This one, I don't see how you can't blame Levy. I really don't see the argument.
One thing I will blame Levy, and if this is true, guys, there's something wrong at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, right? Part of the deal, what we're led to believe, that Richarlison was going to be part of this deal.
Apparently, that was rubbish.
Do you think that was rubbish? Because where does that leave him now? If that
was only reported on the day that was only reported yesterday, and I don't know where that came from because a few hours later it was agreed.
Like half an hour later.
So
half an hour later.
That was rubbish. I don't think there was any truth to that. I think that at the end of the day, we were always going to go in for him once we saw Maddison was injured, and we dillied and we dallied and we negotiated how Levy negotiates, which is scraping for every single penny and pound that he can, trying to get as cheap a deal as he can, not basically doing a deal so good and so convenient for Palace that we can just get it over the line and it's plain sailing. Every single thing has to be negotiated to the nth degree, and that takes time. And it's as Sir Alex Ferguson famously said, dealing with Levy is more painful than his hip replacement. That's how difficult it is dealing with Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy is known for being the toughest negotiator in the Premier League, and sometimes it works in our favour, like with Kudus and whatever. But a lot of the times it ends up in deals like this, where for weeks and weeks and for many, many days, when we could have had an agreement just done, and we could have had this sewn up, right? We wait and we try and get as much money off as possible, right? The reported agreement was we were going to get 55 million deal plus 5 million add-ons, which reportedly is not a bad offer, it's not a bad fee, but the price of us trying to get a deal that low is Palace are going to try and get as high bonuses as possible. So they're counter-negotiating. They're putting in things like, he's going to play against Chelsea. He's going to play in the Europa League. All these stupid things which should never, ever be negotiated for in a proper transfer. We should be a serious club, put the money down on the table and say, we're getting him to whatever you want. Not whatever you want, but within reason. Here's the money. We're serious about getting this deal done and getting it done quickly. And we're getting this over the line. We waited and we waited and waited. Havertz picked up that injury. And all of a sudden, Arsenal came back into play. Now, I don't believe... I don't believe this whole thing about they were waiting... they were delaying the deal so he could play on Thursday. I think that's bullshit. I think Arsenal came in and they needed an excuse to delay the deal, and they were saying, we're delaying it so he can play. But on the flip side, there was a period where Arsenal weren't involved. 100%. There was a period we could have got this done, because why didn't Arsenal sign him? Why did Arsenal wait so long? I don't believe they were just waiting this long just so they could steal him from Tottenham. I think there was a period where they weren't sure. They weren't sure if they were interested. I don't think they want. They went for Madueke instead. They offered Nwaneri a new deal. All these different things, and I think they weren't certain about going for him. And only when Havertz picked up this injury, and then it made them rethink. Maybe we could do with a bit more quality, and maybe we are just going to go for it. I think it kind of clocked at that moment. Actually, I think he's really necessary. But I think there is definitely a period of at least a couple of weeks, I would say, when we were negotiating for him. You weren't in for him. You weren't, or at least you weren't certain about it. And there was a period we could have got it sewn up and done. And because we negotiate how we negotiate, and we're not decisive, and we don't just get deals done, there always has to be a renegotiation. And Palace were probably doing the same. They were probably coming back to us and trying to renegotiate. And because of all that, we left the door open for Arsenal. And we left
I get that. I get what you're saying. But like, as far as if that is the case, what you're saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, is that there was only you involved, right? And so, like, we led to believe that we was the only team left with Gyökeres, for instance, like, you know. So you can try and be that little bit more stingy, if you like. And do you think that could have come into the case, or like, you know, like, you ain't going to pay over the odds for someone you're the only one in for?
But that's the way Levy was thinking, for sure. He thinks that Spurs are the only horse in this race. I can take my time with these negotiations. I can get the price down as much as possible. But you can't be ever certain when you've got a player like Eze of Eze's quality on the market like that. All it takes is one little thing, and another club comes straight in. And look, when Maddison got injured, we should have got that deal wrapped up within days after Maddison getting injured. Arsenal, as soon as Havertz gets injured, within 3 hours, bam, the deal's done. That's how, I'm sorry, and I hate to say this, but that is how a proper team act in the transfer market, not the way Tottenham act. The way Tottenham act is tin pot. We should have had that deal done within a few hours, like you did, if not within a few days.
Do you know, I've just gone out for dinner with my brother. Like, you know, he's over from Thailand. Like, you know, obviously he's a Spurs fan, and he was saying, like, you know, and Regan as well, like, who's Michelle's boy, they're Spurs. So I've had a, you know, going out with a couple of Spurs boys today was highly enjoyable evening. Like, you know what I mean? But what he was saying, and I don't know if you agree with this, you know what I mean? Like, it's only something he put out that clubs don't like Levy, don't want so like, you know, the Nottingham Forest one, like, oh, let's put one over Levy, like now Crystal Palace have put one over, because when it comes the other way round, he's getting every single thing he can, you know, like out of the club, and that he's, you know, like, say for, you know, done fantastically well, get 100 million for Harry Kane, but there's been others along the line that he's squeezed as much as he can out of it, and they go, right, hold on, this is our chance to get payback. Do you think there could be something in that?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. You know, earlier on in Daniel Levy's tenure at Tottenham Hotspur, you know, he was seen as the toughest negotiator in the Premier League, one of the best negotiators in the Premier League. And I think that's all coming back to bite him now. You know, all these painful negotiations he's put other clubs through, it's all coming back to bite him now. And not many clubs want to deal with us. And if they want to deal with us, it's only out of desperation. Like West Ham, they only dealt with us because they had to. They would have preferred to sell to someone else. They would prefer to get a bigger fee. But the reality was they needed money there and then. And we were the only team willing to put the money down there and then. You know, not many clubs want to deal with us at this moment in time in the Premier League.
I'm gonna let me chime in. I know I've been listening in. I think this is down to the player. I think this is the player's dealings. I think he was dragging his heels, and he was waiting for Arsenal. I think Arsenal was always his choice. Yeah, I think he could have. You know, if you're a club and you're in for a transfer for a player and you're the only one available, and you know you're the only one going to be signing for him, you can take your time. And obviously, I think, as Lee said, you know, you don't want to overpay for someone that you know you don't really have to. But these two deals here, you know, I think there is a what's the word? There is the option that, or the opinion that, you know, he needs to be put in his place, Levy, sometimes, because I think he does feel that he can come in and he can do what he wants, and he can, you know, the Spurs have got the power, and I have to, and I know people are going to call me salty and all that, but they're not at the level of the Arsenals or the Chelseas or the, you know, Man Cities when it comes to negotiations, and he thinks they are. But I also do think that Eze, if Arsenal ever came calling, he was going to go to Arsenal, and I think that there was a little bit of the player dragging his heels and seeing, you know, because there was rumblings of Arsenal early on, you know, but I think at that point, if I was negotiating for Spurs, I would have moved heaven and earth to get him, because there is nobody, and I mean nobody, going to come available on the market at that price range that's going to bring that quality. He is the best player outside of the top six by a long shot, by a long way. And I think I spoke about this. Where does he fit? I think he fits in any side, you know. And I was, for a Spurs perspective, I was thinking this is serious business, you know. And they've gone and got Kudus, and Kudus has had a good debut. They now get Eze. I think that, you know, you're talking about a serious side now. You know, Richarlison's playing well. You know, you've got the players like backup like Solanke and all that. And I think if they get Eze, that's a serious sign, because I think he improves any side, anyone. And I think, and this is God's honest truth, I think Eze could be the difference for Arsenal this season. I really do. I think a player of his quality, to bring him in to
the difference what from finishing second to second?
No, they were finishing third before, so it's going to be third.
This is a serious signing. I think I'm very surprised that it was just Arsenal in for him. I'm surprised people like Man United weren't going for him because he's just a fantastic footballer. He wins games, and he's more or less single-handedly won 2 cups for Crystal Palace in the last couple of months. And that's a serious footballer. And I'm very surprised that there was not more clones in for him. But I do think that Eze was always an Arsenal boy. He was an Arsenal academy boy. He's an Arsenal fan. And as soon as that call came from Arsenal, do you fancy coming down and meeting us? I think he was straight on even if he was at White Hart Lane, I think he turned around and he went straight up the road.
I think we allowed it to get to that point, though, Lee, is the point. I think I agree with you. And I think this week, once the whole Havertz thing came to light, I think there were inklings of Arsenal even from the beginning of the week. I reckon they probably started making contact like we're actually going to be serious. And I think there was, we kept hearing from the Tottenham side, oh, the deal's close. But I was getting frustrated at the beginning of the week. Oh, why aren't we hearing there's real progression? Why aren't we hearing a medical booked? Why aren't we hearing like this deal's getting done? It's just close all the time. The negotiations are close. I think there was definitely a period last week. I think on Saturday, there was many journalists were reporting that Eze was set to be left out the Chelsea squad on Sunday, and because the deal was about to be sealed with Tottenham, and then all of a sudden something changed on Sunday, and he ended up playing for starting for Palace, and then all of a sudden, I think Arsenal then at that point came back in for him. So I think there was definitely a period that we could have got this done before Arsenal got involved. And I think it's our fault for allowing it to rumble on. Because I agree with you, Nicky. You say when there's a one-horse race, you feel like you can take your time. And that's what we did. We felt like we could take our time with this deal and try and get the best deal and not overpay because we felt like we were the only ones in the race. But that was we had a full sense of security. We had a complete full sense of security and we were blindsided.
In hindsight, like we all know what's happened there. Like, I was very, very surprised that he played against Chelsea. If you're going to Spurs next week, I was very, very surprised by that. And also, when he was walking around at the end of it, it didn't look like he was that overjoyed about it or whatever. I know this is all hindsight sort of stuff, but surely when he's running out at Stamford Bridge, and you've basically agreed a deal, surely that must have been red flags to it. Sorry to say red, but flags. So I'll just say flags.
100%.
I'll say flags. Sorry about that.
No, that's what we were saying. The deal was meant to be done, and then all of a sudden he started the game, and that was definitely one moment when I think I got the feeling, okay, what happened in the deal? I think everyone was kind of saying, and everyone was kind of justifying it in the fan base, saying, well, he's such a professional player. If the deal's not signed, he's always going to play if he's available because he does want to end with Palace on bad terms. But for me, the reporting was he was set to be left out, and then he wasn't left out. So something happened in the deal that meant that there was a backtrack there. What happened? Why were we so close, and then all of a sudden we weren't? So something happened in that deal. Was it Levy posturing again? Was he coming back in for another negotiation? The amount of anecdotes, by the way, you've had.
That's the point that Arsenal came in. That's the point that Arsenal came in my opinion. That's Saturday. When Arsenal came in, because that's when you heard Steve Parish is trying to get a different bonus here, a different bonus there, trying to stall the move.
At the beginning of the week, yeah.
That's when I thought Arsenal came in, or that's where, in hindsight, I think Arsenal would come in.
I don't think the Havertz thing had anything to do with it because it's a completely different player. Something happened at the beginning of the week and all that.